if we go back to the meeting in Russia just recently, Kazan, this was their annual meeting. It was in South Africa last year, in Russia this year, next year or this coming year, 2025, it'll be in Brazil. But something happened there that I think will crystallize, and it's emblematic of Trump as well. We'll talk about that in a moment, but let's just call what happened emblematic of the West and the reasons that the BRICS formed to begin with. So they had something called mBridge. They had a meeting several months earlier in Novigrad where Dilma Rousseff, the former president of Brazil and the head of the New Development Bank, came out and said, we have agreed in principle, the BRICS nations, in a common settlement currency called the unit. It'll be 40% gold-backed. It'll be traded over Project mBridge. And to hear the head of the BRICS New Development Bank, the former president of Brazil, publicly say, in principle, we've agreed to this gold-backed settlement currency, which is redeemable by nation states on demand, was huge. Project mBridge is something I've talked about for over a year, maybe two, and it was a development that is about 4 years long that was between China, Hong Kong, Thailand, and the United Arab Emirates. And the technology is primarily Chinese. And it's operational. Saudi Arabia became the 5th full-time participant in it late last year. So now you have all of these countries and Saudi Arabia as a full-time participant on a cross-border payment system that the head of the BRICS New Development Bank said would trade a common settlement currency. It's a big deal. Now, what isn't talked about enough is that there was another player in all of this, and this is the Bank of International Settlements and their innovation hub. And that innovation hub was helping develop and integrate this into the Western system. And it was always kind of telling when it was interesting when you would hear at their meeting that the BRICS didn't want to upend the whole system. They just wanted to make it more fair and to rewrite it, like a new Bretton Woods system, if you will, that they had aspirations of integrating with the IMF and the BIS and integration with the UN and all of these things that were surprising to me. And I probably should have paid closer attention to the fact that the BIS is a Western institution, because here's the espionage part of it all. At the 12th hour, after this mBridge is operational and was in use, China had the first 2 test trades in late 2023 where digital yuan cross-border with the UAE for delivery of gold and oil worked. It was operational. And at the 12th hour, the operating director of the BIS, Augustus Carstens, comes out and he says, we at the BIS have decided that we can't be involved in any project with countries that are being sanctioned by the West, so we're pulling out and pulling the plug on mBridge. Now, this is at the 12th hour, basically at their meeting in Russia. It's as if the guy just realized, after 4 years of working with the BRICS nations, that Russia was the R in BRICS. And to do it at that moment will crystallize their resolve. Now, if we look at it with Trump, he's saying 100% tariffs on any of these countries that further their intention of a common currency. Now, he didn't say common settlement currency, but probably that's what he means. But the point of it is simply this. Tariffs are used to protect manufacturing. There's no manufacturing that he's protecting. This is a sanction masquerading as a tariff. It's more of the same thing. Now, I just simply think that if he wanted to really bring everything together, it would be far better to extend an olive branch than to continue down the same stick route with sanctions. Call them tariffs. They're not tariffs. They're sanctions. So I don't think it will change that much. Yes, we may have better relations with these countries, but the fact remains that the 10-year Treasury demand, if you look over the past 25 years, gold has doubled the 10-year Treasury, but the most important characteristic, has no counterparty risk. There's no risk of sanctions and of confiscation, and presidencies come and go, and as you can see, the diametrically opposed way perhaps that we will deal with the world between the Biden administration and the Trump administration. So I think these entities think in terms of decades and centuries, whereas we think in terms of days, weeks, and much smaller increments. So no, this will not stop their drive to accumulate gold and to strive to lessen their dependence on the dollar, which right now will be through trading local currencies and settling any excess in things like gold. And they have something called BRICS Clear, BRICS Play, BRICS Pay, and now the bridge no longer mBridge, the bridge. And it's continuing. I mean, that's just it. It's weaponizing the dollar through threats. It's not tariffs, it's sanctioning. So yes, I think it does. And that really, to me, is part of the problem. You look at a currency that is, in essence, $200 trillion in debt. Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, and government military pensions exceed $175 trillion in and of themselves, and they're off balance sheet. So we're $200 trillion in debt. We've weaponized and threatened countries if they don't follow our agenda. And yet we're trying to force people or countries to accept this currency. And that's not right, and that's not how the system ultimately works. So, yeah, I do think it's a problem, and I do think that is the way that the West has operated. You saw what happened as well when you talk about energy, the petrodollar, right? And United Arab Emirates joining BRICS and Saudi Arabia straddling more or less, when there was the G7 meeting just a few months ago, it coincided with the BRICS meeting in Novograd, the one, not the last meeting, but the one before the last meeting where Delman came out and said this stuff. The Saudi finance minister went to the BRICS meeting and turned down the invitation to the G7 meeting. Their allegiance seems to be leaning towards the BRICS, but look at the way the West operates. Gaddafi said he wanted to sell oil for euro, and Saddam said he wanted to sell oil for gold, and you saw what happened. They're no longer with us, and this is what the West has done through coercion. What the BRICS represents is safety in numbers, and I do think it's a trend that will continue because of this sanctioning, because of this coercion, and I'm not to, I just think it's a trend that will continue, and I don't think that Trump, for all of the good things he will do, will change course on trying to make sure that the dollar stays the world reserve currency. Over the last 4 years, replacing merit and hard work and effort, which I am a product of in every respect of my life, with lifestyle, really got to me, along with the lawlessness and the open borders and the questioning of the things that made the United States special, the immigration system, the electoral system, the judicial system, all of these things were questioned. And he will come in and hopefully change that very quickly. That is where the optimism is, but I think it's irrational to think that there won't be problems monetarily and fiscally. And the house that he's being left is really in disarray. Doge just came out and said we'll be lucky to get $1 trillion in deductions over the next few years, not $2. The first 2 months of this fiscal year, which were November, December, I believe, or October, November. Anyways, the first 2 months of the fiscal calendar for the government, the Treasury went into debt to a larger degree than any time in the history of this country. And so the spending is accelerating, as is the involvement in the Ukraine, the involvement in Syria. So many of the things that Trump is trying to do are being made difficult for him to achieve them, let alone a house that, we're creating, Charlotte, $100,000 worth of debt per second. 1, 2, 3, 4, keep on going. $1 trillion every 100 days. That fiscal irresponsibility, even if they balance the budget today, the Congressional Budget Office says by 2031, 100% of income tax will go just to pay interest on the debt and mandatory entitlement programs, which are off balance sheet. So how does a country remain the world superpower when everything like military is discretional and you have to borrow it? There is a problem with debt. And if I were completely honest and thinking outside the box, thinking what could happen, I'm not saying it's gonna, but I think, first of all, if you haven't learned over the last 4 years to question everything, you've learned nothing. Everything we were told largely was untrue to one degree or another. You must question everything. What better person to bring in to oversee a reset than President Trump? He's the master of the bankruptcy and reorganization. And in doing an interview with Francis Hunt, he speaks this way that, he told me he thought Trump was selected, not elected, that there are people pulling his strings, and he was brought in specifically to usher in a new digital surveillance state. Now, I'm not saying that this is what I believe, but what I'm saying is that there's a lot under the surface that is being ignored and needs to be addressed, and he's being left a house in great disarray. But I think we should all be optimistic that we get our culture back. And that's part of what Francis was saying, is that a lot of what we saw over the last 4 years was allowed to happen, and that he comes in overwhelmingly with the sense of patriotism to fix all of this stuff and usher in a surveillance state. I said, well, what do you mean by that? He said, you watch, they'll issue a digital ID under the guise of election integrity. He just came out and said, we're going to issue the digital ID. Now, if you look at who's behind the digital ID 2020, it's the Rockefeller Foundation, it's the Gates Foundation, and I forgot, Canva, I think is the name. It's the big vaccine organization. And the technology behind that ties in your passport, your health records, eventually your financial records, and all of your information in one ID. I'm not saying that this is the case, but what I'm just simply saying is I think we all need to be open-minded, because the worst thing that we can do is trust that everything is going to be okay after last 4 years of insanity. These people are still there pulling the strings, and I guess I'll leave the question, because I don't know the answer, and I hope people don't get mad at me for saying it, but the question, and I said this in my presentation, is Trump the Trojan horse, or is he riding on the Trojan horse? And I guess we'll find out. But from a standpoint, I voted for him, and I'm thrilled he's here because I want my culture back. But from a standpoint of what it means in terms of issuing a central bank digital currency, could it be tied to gold and silver like Judy Shelton and Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary? It's his largest holding. So maybe then he is riding on the Trojan horse. Or if he goes the other direction and issues a CBDC the way that the World Economic Forum wants, the United Nations, well, then he is a Trojan horse. Now, the technology behind the CBDC is there. I mean, it was developed at MIT with Lael Brainerd's assistance overseeing it. I don't want to come across as someone who believes in conspiratorial things, but I think you have to have an open mind and wonder, just how does this all play out? Is he really going to push back against the deep state, or could he actually be part of it? We'll find out. I'm hoping it's the former, not the latter. In terms of wondering, is there a bigger system in essence that is being brought in? And you get to a point of a digital ID, it's the beginning. I mean, that's what they're doing, a social credit score. That is the ability to do those things. I'm not saying it's going to. I hope it doesn't. And even Scott Bessent says that he doesn't think we need a CBDC. That would be great. Maybe it's a digital currency pegged to gold, like Judy Shelton is advocating to a degree. That's what she'd really like, but I think it's the treasuries is the first place to go. But again, Charlotte, all I'm simply saying is that I think it's important to be optimistic, but cautiously optimistic for sure, as it pertains to a system that is highly over-leveraged, massively undercapitalized, and woefully indebted. So how does that all play out? Well, a guy like Trump would be smart enough to figure out the best way to perhaps reset a system and restructure and reorganize under a sound money system. That would be my hope. That is what I pray for, but I guess we'll see.